Hi everyone, my name's Pan. Welcome to another edition of Bluebird Corner, the Cardiff City Fans podcast. So tonight's pod is looking back on a previous season. We're now on the 97-98 season. We're doing a season every Tuesday, and we'll go through the transfers during that pre-season and look at the fixtures, go through the season itself, and then bring up a league table with average attendance and top goal scorers. So Cardiff City are managed by Kenny Hibbert, the former Wolverhampton player legend, and his assistant, former England national, Russell Osman, who's the coach. And Samish Kumar, the former director of Birmingham City, is the owner of the club. And Hibbert and Osman decide during the summer to completely change the way City play, the style of play. And as a result, there's some big City casualties along the way in terms of big profile players at the club. And Jason Perry, the Welsh legendary central defender for City, based on his tenacity and his work rate in defence, is considering his options after only being offered a 1-year contract during that summer period. Now, a number of players are released to clear the decks, including Steve Williams, goalkeeper Pat Morgan, Nathan Wigg, Andy Scott, Jimmy Gardner, the winger, Ian Rogerson, and Lee Vick and Hayden Fleming. And Jimmy Rollo, Lee Phillips, and Kevin Lloyd accept new contracts. So players coming through the door, obviously we were in that situation again, and it's happened so many times during the 80s and 90s where as soon as we get an offer for one of our quality players, they're out the door. And in this case, Simon Howarth, the Welsh number 9 striker, who did really well the back end of the previous season, the City had an offer of £500,000 from Coventry City, and snapped it up straight away, and out went Simon Howarth. That was a real blow for City fans at that time. And during that time, Jason Perry in the end decides he's going to leave the club, offered a better deal at Bristol Rovers. So in comes a number of players, including goalkeeper John Holworth. John made 123 game appearances for City. He's now a successful property investor in Greater Manchester, owning numerous properties there. And then former Swansea midfielder David Penny made 35 appearances for City, scoring 5 goals. He came in during that summer as well, and he's now sporting director of ambitious York City. Also signed is central defender Mark Harris, who came in from Gillingham. Mark played 38 times for us and ended his career at non-league Bromley. Kevin Nugent, we signed the number 9 from Bristol City. The striker played 99 times for City, scoring 29 goals. And Kevin later went on to manage clubs like Barnet and is now the Millwall under-23 coach. Left back Chris Breach also came in from Manchester City. Chris made 46 appearances for us and is now director of non-league Flide. Left winger Tony Cars was the other signing from Darlington. He played 42 times for us and is now the under-23 coach at Aston Villa. So City started the season well with a 1-0 win at Leyton Orient with Cardale, but Cardale actually suffers a serious ankle injury. And later that week, Kevin Nugent, who's just signed for the club, while in training, he also suffers a serious injury in training. So both our main strikers are out within 1 week of the season starting. At this point, City bring in Chris Greenacre on loan from Manchester City and sign winger from Swindon, Wayne O'Sullivan, for a reported £75,000. City then win at Mansfield and then draw at home to Notts County. And City only suffer 1 defeat by the time they get to the 16th September, when they eventually lose their undefeated record to Chester, who beat us 2-0. Now, City are really struggling for goals, and with both main strikers out, and dispute between Kumar and Tony Philliskirk gets to a point where Tony is asked to stay away from the club while he gets his full wages. And Jeff Eckhart takes on the role as our number 9. Jeff was a very good defender for City. He ended up being our striker. City continued to go in to games with low-scoring games. So in comes Andy Saville from Wigan. City draw another time 0-0 to Scunthorpe and make it 11 draws up until November. City then loan striker Glenn Crowe from Wolverhampton Wanderers as Dale gets over from his ankle operation. The Bluebirds do improve and they win 4 of their next 5 with Dale and Saville chipping in, and City are now in a more promising 14th position. Unfortunately, Cardiff don't win any of their next league and cup games during that Boxing Day home game at Next in front of 6,000. They draw 1-1 and are now back to 18th. City beat Leyton Orient in the match at home, 1-0 with a penalty from David Penny. But, they don't win any of their next 8 games, and Kumar decides to get rid of Russell Osmond, and Kenny Hibbett goes back to director of football. And this point, it's all a bit of a mess completely. Bobby Gould is asked to come in to supervise training, but things don't really improve by that much. And it's decided that Frank Burrows, legendary City manager, is asked to come back, which Frank accepts in mid-February when Cardiff City are actually in 19th position. Cardiff do go on an unbeaten run for the next 5 with 4 draws, but City is still in the precarious position and don't move any higher than 19th. On March the 14th, City beat Colchester 7-1 at home with 2 from Saville, and then they beat Hull 1-0 with local lad Christian Roberts getting the winner, and he actually ends up getting 3 in 3 games, and City are now in 17th position. But typical of Cardiff, we actually finished the season poorly and don't win any of our last 7 league games. And you can see from the league table there that we finish, well, overall, it's the 89th worst team out of the 92 teams in the Premier League and Football League. It's our second worst finish to our season in our history. And you can see there we're level on points with the Jacks. Notts County nearly hitting the magic 100 points mark. And Colchester United actually went up via the playoffs. So top goal scorer was Andy Saville with 11 goals, followed by Fowler and Penny getting 5 apiece. And the average attendance that season was, believe it or not, 3,610, which was 16 more fans on average than the previous season. We did reasonably well in the FA Cup, getting to the 4th round, but lost in a replay at Reading, although our home gate against Reading was our biggest crowd of the season, just over 10,000. And we did get to the Welsh Cup final last year, but we lost to Wrexham in the final 2-1. So again, for younger City fans listening to this or watching it, you realise how lucky you've got it now compared to back in the day. As I said, in the 80s and especially the 90s, we were really struggling in the lowest league of the Football League. And, as I said, season before, I think, what was it? We nearly went out of the league, and things were not getting better at all under Kumar. Sort of selling Howarth was a disaster for us. And obviously with Jason Perry going as well, they were 2 key players for us. And if we kept those players, we could have easily been very competitive and challenged for a playoff spot. But there you are. That was Cardiff City for you in the 80s and 90s, always selling any talent. But that's how it went. So yeah, I hope you enjoy these little podcasts. As I said, they are quite short, but just gives you a little summary and some background of some old players that you might remember during that time. It'd be great to hear your thoughts during that season. What did you remember of that season? Can you remember the Colchester win when we won 7-1? Were there any other games that stood out for you, including the Reading FA Cup game and the Welsh Cup final? So please get your comments in. We really appreciate it. And we'll do a podcast next Tuesday on the 98-99 season. Have a good evening. Take care.